All right, everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Sylvia Dieckmann, and I will be talking about building a very simple Flutter chat app from scratch together. Before I start, I would like to say I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person today. I was really looking forward. I really enjoyed meeting some of you last year, and I was hoping I can come again. It didn't work out, so I'm going to deliver this talk pre-recorded from my home in South Africa. But I hope I get another chance to visit you guys and your community in Uganda. I know you're doing awesome stuff there, and I would like to chat a little more with you guys. With that said, let me switch slides here. Yes. So the material that I'm going to present today is work by a Googler called Eric Windmill. He was kind enough to put this demo together and even prepare the slides. It is a really awesome demo, so I'm simply just presenting it here. I'm going through a lot of code fairly quickly, so don't panic if you don't keep up. Just look at Eric's repo afterwards. I'm going to share my slides so you get access to all the material I'm showing here today, but you can also go straight to the GitHub repo, check out Eric's code, and inspect and learn from it. So what I want to do today is we're going to start out with a super brief intro to Flutter and to Firebase, the two big technologies that I want to discuss today. And then I show you how to set up a fresh project with FlutterBase and with Flutter and Firebase. And I'm going to use two products from the Firebase suite, Firebase Auth and Firestore for this. I show you how, once your app is running, your skeleton app, I show you how to display data from Firebase and also how to write data into your Firebase cloud storage. Right. So, very, very quick overview of what Flutter is. This is in Google's words. It's Google's portable UI toolkit for building beautiful multi-platform applications. Now the kicker here is the multi-platform. What Flutter is basically is an app development framework that allows us app developers to write a single app, single code base, and then deploy to a number of different platforms, 6 altogether. There is Android, iOS, web, desktop, Linux, Windows, and some even count embedded systems to this. So in my case today, I'm only talking about Android, but I have tried this demo on Android, iOS, and web, and it works everywhere just as well. So that was the whirlwind tour of Flutter. Now let's look at Firebase. Now, Firebase is different. That is a suite of cloud services. There are probably about 20 different services now. I haven't counted them, but that's kind of give or take. And there are new ones coming all the time. There are tools to build your backend, like any data storage, for example, image storage. There are tools for app quality that allow you to monitor your app, to test changes in your app, and so on. And there are tools that provide better engagement. So a lot of them also have to do with monitoring and with configuring an app for particular user needs. So all in all, Firebase is an awesome tool suite, especially for small teams that don't have time or resources to build a backend completely from scratch. So I love it and I use it all the time. Now, today I said we wanted to build an app from scratch. So the first thing you have to do is set up Firebase and Flutter projects. So I assume you already, at this point, you have installed Flutter and you have installed your Firebase command line interface. If you struggle with that, there are plenty of tutorials that help you with these very, very first steps. But now, let's say you have a Firebase account. You can log into the console. And now it's time to create a new project. Now I have done that ahead of time because it is not so easy to do online in the live demo. So I created this project here. I called it Chat App Demo. And I enabled two different services. The first one is authentication here. It allows you to choose a bunch of different sign-up methods. So I decided I only wanted to have anonymous sign-in, but that service I did enable. I could enable others, but for the purpose of this demo, I said I wanted to keep it simple. This was the best. And then I also enabled Firestore database. Firestore is a NoSQL database. When you enable it, the first thing it tells you is you must select security rules. However, it does allow you to keep security rules very simple for test apps, and that's what I did here. So these rules basically just mean everybody can access my data for 1 month. After that, the demo will not work anymore, and that's fine with me. So typically, this test scenario will get you started, but it wouldn't be good enough for a production app. Okay, so this was the requirement, previous requirement. Now we have to create a new app. And I do that in the command line. I use the Flutter command line interface for it. It's Flutter create and the app name. If you leave the -- empty out, you get a skeleton app that has a minimum counter or so that gives you a chance to study how a Flutter app is built. But since I want to do that from scratch here, I want to start with an empty skeleton, no comments, no nothing, and I use the -- empty. After you create your app, you just cd into the root directory and you call Flutterfire configure. Flutterfire is a command line interface provided by the Firebase people, and it's absolutely awesome. It does a lot of the configuration work for you. So when you sign up for Firebase and you create a project and you say you want to have an Android app, it starts explaining you must download this configuration file and must put it there. Flutterfire does all of that for you. And it does that in a way that works perfectly for Flutter. It creates a Firebase_options.dart file in your root directory. And this Firebase options file contains all the configuration needed for each platform. So here you see the example of the web platform, but there will be a similar set for Android, iOS, or whatever platform you choose. And later when the app is run, the correct configuration will be chosen from the different sets you configured. And then the last thing I did ahead of time was to add 4 different libraries to my skeleton app. So this is in general how whenever you work with Flutter, you typically add a bunch of different libraries. The core Flutter system is very rudimentary, and then a lot of the extra widgets or services get added with libraries, and all of these libraries get added into pub/spec YAML. So you just add what you need, and then you say Flutter pub get to fetch them into your runtime system. Right, now it's time to code. So let me switch over to my Android Studio. Oops, not here, but there. All right, so let me just restart my emulator. So here's my basic skeleton app. It really isn't anything, but I already added my 4 libraries here. So let's run that thing. This is a cold start, so it will take a few seconds, not too long. And there it's booting up. All right, what you see is now a super simple skeleton app that does nothing else but hello world. That's a good start, I guess. Let's build on that. So let me find my main.dart here. Let me make a bit more space. Okay, so this is the top of main.dart, and this is my main entry point. Here's my main file, and all that does is call run app, and run app gets as argument main app, a stateless widget. So let me add a bit of code here. Right. I have to make a few changes. This must be async. And then I need to pull in some imports. So these get to the top of the file here. Right, so what I really added was these two lines here, which is Flutter binding ensure initialize is a blocking function that during initialization of your app waits and forces the initialization process to first finish setting up connection with the underlying platform, with the native system, before further configuration can happen. Now this is basically a a pause function. Once that connection with the underlying platform has been made, then Firebase can be set up. Firebase initialization will use methods channels, and that's basically a way to reach out to the underlying platform. This is why this initialize is so important. Now Firebase initialize app gets as options a set of configurations, and this is depending on which platform we are running on. In this case, my emulator here is an Android emulator. It would take the Android package. So this is coming from the configuration that I discussed earlier. Here is my Android configuration. All right. So that was the first step. Then the next step is in my main app, I have a material app that does the hello world, and I think I just replaced this whole thing. All right, I replaced that with a similar material app that has a title, a theme, and home. Home will be a chat page. Chat page does not exist yet, so that's not good. So let me create this new widget, chat app. Okay. Chat app is a stateless widget that has a build method, like any stateless widgets. It returns a scaffold widget, and inside the scaffold we have an app bar and a body. The body will be a chat view. That's not defined yet. That will come soon. But let's first look at the app bar. The app bar has a title and then has a bunch of actions. So all of this is very straightforward Flutter. You will come across this with any app you build. What do we want in actions? What I want is a button that does authentication. So, sign in button. Here is my elevated button, and on pressed, when this button is pressed, it does an asynchronous call where it gets a Firebase Auth instance, and then it checks on the state of this authentication. So if the current user is not null, which means there is a user currently signed in, then it will call auth sign out. But if the current user is null, then it will call sign in anonymously. So both of these functions are functions provided by the Firebase Auth package. And in fact, let me include this to make sure the squiggly line goes away. No, what is wrong here? There's something wrong. Oh, I think, let me see if I need to update my libraries here. All right. Right. So this was this part, and let me catch up with my presentation again. This was the material app that got replaced with chat page, and then we wanted to add Firebase Auth. So for that, we created a chat page, created an elevated button that signs in or signs out depending on the current state. And now it's time to add the chat view widget. Right. This must go below. Skeleton chat view. All right. Again, a stateless widget. And in this one, the build method returns a Steam Builder. Now that's an interesting one. A Steam Builder is a custom widget that listens to a data source. This data source will return a stream of data in form of snapshots. And every time there's a new snapshot coming, the Steam Builder widget will rebuild itself using the builder method. So the stream that I'm listening to is this Firebase instant auth state changes. So you can imagine what this does. Every time the state changes, there is a new auth snapshot with the changed state. Okay? So every time this happens, auth change has changed, user has either logged in or logged out. Something should happen here. All right, and what I'll do, very straightforward, is I set this up as a column just for formatting, but basically there is my text that displays the current snapshots UID, user ID. Okay, so at this point my code is functional again, no more squiggly lines. I can run this. In fact, I think this will fail because I can't do a hot reload. I think I have to, let me stop this and start from scratch. All right, there it goes. Here's my app. I'm currently logged in, so it shows me the user ID of this user. Now I can log out, then my ID is null, or I can log in again. This would be a different user ID because I'm doing anonymous sign-in, so every time I sign in, I will be assigned a new user ID. Cool. That was it. Let me catch up again with my slides. So this is my stream builder. This is the text I'm displaying whenever there is a change in state. And that's what I just demonstrated. All right, next topic is querying Firestore. So Firestore is a NoSQL database. In order to interact with this database, I need to create a data object. So let me create a new file here. Call it message. And then message is very simple. Right. Here's my message. It has three properties, UID, the message, the actual payload, and a timestamp, and a constructor. Fairly straightforward. But I want to add something else, and I just want to show you what this is. So this is a factory method that takes a document snapshot as an input, as an input, and then turns that document snapshot into a method. A document snapshot is the data format that Firestore uses to represent data. So every time you access data in your database in Firestore, you get a document snapshot back. And this document snapshot is basically a map of key values that I am here turning into a message object. So this is for the way from the database to my app, but I can also think of the reverse way. So that would be with to Firestore. This to Firestore is called on a method, so I'm already having the method, and it turns that into a key value pair. So this will be super useful when it's time to add data into your database. Right. So with these two convenience methods, it's now time to set up the database query, and that is done outside of the message class, but it belongs together, so I keep it in the same file. And here it is. Let me reformat this. Okay. So this message query takes a Firestore instance and accesses a collection. So a collection is basically, yes, a collection of data objects. It has a name, in my case messages, and it basically will retrieve a list of all message objects in my database. Now at this point I could filter it more. I could, for example, say, any message with date stamp of today, but let's keep it simple here. All I want to do is order the results in descending order, so last and first. Now note that by declaring this messages query here, the query is not executed, it's simply declared. There is no data being accessed in Firestore yet. That will come in the next step. All right, but let me catch up with my slides first. So here was the message object, here is the from Firestore method, and here is the to Firestore method. And my messages query. Okay, now we know how to query Firestore data, at least in theory. So let's actually display some Firestore data. And for that we need to go back to the chat view. If you remember, this was our chat view. It had a column here with only the text. So this was the text here on top, the user ID. So let's add a little bit to it. Replace that with a message here. All right. I'm using the expanded widget here to make sure that my body fills the entire page. And then I'm using another stream builder. But in this case, rather than observing the auth state, I'm observing my messages query. And every time messages query sends a new snapshot back, the snapshot will be a list of messages, not a single message, but a list of messages. So whenever there's a change, you'll get back the entire list. All right. And then in the builder, I need to handle that data that comes back. But first I need to handle the waiting state. So it could well be that the message has not been completely delivered. So in this case, I'll just show a progress indicator. But eventually you get out of this waiting state and more interesting things can be shown. So as I said, every time you get a new snapshot, the snapshot will be a list of objects, a list of messages. So I can use the list viewer. The list view builder. So I know the number of items in here can be retrieved from the messages snapshot. And then I can actually get the message. So I have my snapshots element. I turn that into a message, and then I pass that message into a chat bubble object. Chat bubble is a bit special. That is one of these convenience methods that we predefined here just to save a little bit of time. So don't stress too much about that. So ultimately, this piece here is probably the most tricky one that you struggle with most. There are lots of tips on Stack Overflow and on how to do the cast correctly here. It is a bit of trial and error. Right, so let me catch up with my presentation again. There is my stream builder, the list view, and that's it. Let me quickly run this. So you shouldn't actually see anything here because we don't have any messages in our database yet. There is nothing to see. So, but at least we don't get an error. That's good news. So let me collapse this piece here and add the next component, message add. Right. So this here is, so far we can display messages as a list when there are messages. At the moment there are none. But then I also want to add new messages. And so this is what this chat text input does. Again, this is one of our convenience methods. But on send, it takes the payload, the message, and it adds it to the existing collection of messages. Turns basically the payload into a message object, turns that into a key value pair, and then adds that to the collection. And this should be it. So let me see now. Here is my adding the last component I added. So let me enter a message. So hello Kampala. All right. How are you? How's the weather? So you see the scheme here. Every entry I do is entered into the database. Now I want to show you one cool thing. If you haven't used Firestore before, this is the Firebase UI. So let me reload this. There is something odd here. All right, now it's loading. Excellent. There's my message collection. And here are the 3 messages. So let me make a change. How are you? How's the weather? That's maybe a little sloppy, so let me correct that spelling. How is the weather in Uganda today? Update. And now you didn't, I should have had these windows side by side, because then you would have seen there's an instant update. Because what happens is the stream builder that listens to snapshots coming from the messages collection gets another snapshot as soon as there is a change. So immediately my UI will display the new data. There's no reload necessary or so. Flutter is doing all of that by itself. So with that, I think I'm at the end of my presentation. Let me see if I have any slides left. No, that's you. That's it. Once again, my name is Sylvia Dieckmann. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach me per email at sylvie@gmail.com, but LinkedIn usually works better. If you scan this QR code here, that gives you the access to this presentation, including the links. And the one you should really look at is this Eric Windmill link. That will be the code that I actually demoed today. So that's it. I hope you had some fun. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. And if I'm not mistaken, you'll see me again tomorrow when I will be giving a more advanced talk about Flutter maps. That one will be more expert level. This one was geared a little more towards the beginners among you. All right, I hope you'll build something cool with Flutter and Firebase. And if you have something you want me to check out, send me a link and I'll have a look. That's it. Bye-bye. Have a good time.